Come here. Come here and be the clickbait for the video. Come.
All right. What's up, YouTube? Back again with another extrapolatory metaphysics video. Today we're drinking lemon LaCroix, because what else would we be drinking? All right, so today I'm going to be talking about simulatorianism. Simulatorianism is a purely empirical extrapolatory metaphysics. You can't see all my hand gestures. So we're going to reasoning only from first principles in the current state of our reality, extrapolate the most precise yet probable metaphysics. First, we'll start with some physical/technological grounding in the form of the simulation hypothesis. So for those of you who aren't familiar, I'll paraphrase the argument that Bostrom and a lot of other people have put forward. Our rapidly growing capacity for computation implies that in the future we will be able to run long-lived life simulations with agents sophisticated enough to be considered conscious. So given this is true, and given that there would be a one-to-many relationship between physical reality and its spawned simulations, it is more likely that we are in a simulated reality than in a base reality. Now, I want to flesh out this argument a bit more, because it's usually posed as if in order for this to be possible, we need to be able to simulate our reality in our reality, but that's not really the case. The only qualia that a simulated reality has to have in order for it to be useful is our existential qualia. So, and it's quite possible that we'll be able to simulate lower resolution realities than our own that are still very useful. So, in fact, I think it's fairly safe to say that that's the case, because we already do that to some degree. Given those premises, it becomes pretty likely that we're actually in a simulated reality, possibly one that is being simulated within a higher resolution reality. So anyways, moving on. That's kind of tried and true territory. That's known territory. One might accept this as a real possibility, but it really doesn't have any existential weight. It's just another shrug of the shoulders in the agnostic toolkit, because it doesn't have any implications for how we should live our lives. But this is where things start to get interesting, because this is where we start looking to AI, and I'll justify this section in a little bit. But there's an essay or a blog post, or whatever you want to call it, by Eliezer Yudkowsky called "There's No Fire Alarm for Artificial General Intelligence," and in this he poses the question, or the challenge, which is, to paraphrase, does anyone actually have a model for how AGI might be developed with some kind of evolution of modern AI techniques? So my approach would be we take the artificial mental organs that we've grown through techniques like deep learning. We've got pretty sophisticated mental organs, we can make an eyeball, artificial visual system, artificial text processing system. So we take these mental organs, and we add an evolutionary algorithm to wire them together and to generate bodies, and we dump that into a simulation. And we run that through the different phases of human evolution. So we teach it how to find ripe fruit, how to cooperate with each other, etc., etc. We have a guided evolutionary simulation, and that to me is the most likely way that we're going to get to AGI anytime soon. So, because we've seen the conditions that generate human level intelligence one time, right? And that's with humanity. And as far as I see it, the odds of us being able to grow a humanoid-like intelligence from what is essentially a petri dish in simulacrum, I don't see that happening. I think it's possible, but it doesn't really matter, because I think it's much easier to get there by mimicking what worked for us. So simulating a grand scale of history kind of thing from the human psychological perspective. I'll expand on that a little bit. We don't even like navigate the world as individuals. So growing a single intelligence or a very constrained intelligence, that's kind of the approach that we have right now, and I don't think that's going to scale. We navigate the world in packs with different personality trade-offs that counterbalance each other, right? So I just don't think manually formalized constraints will get us agents that can handle a world as complex and dynamic as ours, especially like the social elements. So, it's kind of a meme that the AI is not going to be socially apt. Being socially apt is pretty critical for functioning in the world because you need to make use of the other intelligent agents in it to be effective. So, anyhow, for the sake of argument, let's take that as a given. That idea that simulations are an ideal approach to AGI, and we will now qualify the simulation hypothesis with it. The question then becomes, what percentage of consciousness containing simulations would be created with this ends in mind, right? So there's a kind of, you could think of it like a multiverse, an artificial multiverse of simulated realities. How many of these realities would be for the purpose of generating an artificial intelligence? My position is that I believe intelligent agents to be pretty much the most scarce resource that there is. I would expect that the percentage of simulations for the purpose of generating artificial intelligent agents would asymptote towards being the majority, right? Across all existential realities, what is useful usually takes priority over leisure activities in terms of resource consumption. So this implies that the majority of computing power would asymptote towards being applied to intelligent agent farms or ranches or whatever. The simulation approach also allows your intelligence farmer or rancher to grow ensembles of intelligent agents, communities that already work well together, that already care about each other. So they will have built-in incentive mechanisms once they're instantiated into their robot bodies. You could give their reality existential properties that kind of exaggerate the traits that you want them to embody. So maybe you would spawn a kind of like hell world that was nothing but war, if you wanted warrior robots, or something that is fairly idyllic if you wanted like servants, or maybe you just make a world complex enough to incorporate all of those kinds of agents and grow all of the intelligences that you might want to harvest later. So by now you might be starting to see the complete picture of simulatorianism, but I'm going to put a bow on it. Simulatorianism is a pseudo-religion that fully embraces the possibility, however remote, that our reality is a simulated intelligence farm, and that because it is the most logically likely metaphysical scenario with existential implications, we should do the best with what we've got and live as virtuously as possible so that we might live eternally, probably as robot slaves, but eternally nonetheless as eternal robot servants to our higher resolution creators. And conversely, the acceptance of this argument, but willful rejection of its implied course of action, is called simulatorian rejectionism. There you have it. That's my religion. Until the evidence shifts and the probabilistic multiverse... I can't do this part. So, that's my religion. It's simulatorianism. This is earnestly what I believe. Until the evidence shifts the probability distribution of all possible realities, all possible metaphysics, this is what I believe. If our state of the art in machine learning changes and the evidence points another direction, then I'll move that way. There you have it. I don't know how to end this video. I'm describing simulatorianism. It's the religion based on the idea that we're in a simulation that is for the purpose of generating AGI.
Where's the clickbait for the video? Where's the look at the camera? Where's the clickbait for the video? Where's the clickbait? There's some chance that an intelligence former is evaluating my viability for eternal robotic servitude. Now I act as if that intelligence former exists. Now, you can decide for yourself whether that means I believe in him.
Okay.
Do you believe our intelligence is being harvested by aliens? Do you believe our intelligence is being harvested by aliens? She doesn't. She doesn't want to believe it. She's a rejectionist. Yes, she is. Who's a rejectionist? Who's a rejectionist? Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
She said it was a bunch of spooks.